come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por
We
favor,
invite you, if
manténganse
you
alejados
dare,
de las
to
puertas.
visit tonight's episode in Twista, indescribably travel
doorless chambers.
Hello and welcome to Miles from Main Street, your Far From Disney podcast. My name is Mikhailo.
And I'm Brian.
And we're here to talk about Disney World,
But especially coping away from Disney.
which we know a lot about being from the Midwest. Here at Miles from Main Street, our preferred travel agency is Magical Vacations by Kimberly. Kimberly is a Disney expert and can handle all of your Disney planning needs. She can also plan Universal and all major cruise lines. Contact Kimberly at magicalvacationsbykimberly@yahoo.com.
And find her on Facebook and Instagram under Magical Vacations by Kimberly.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we're going to talk about some must-dos. Not Stacy's must-dos. We're talking about our must-dos.
Is Stacy even on that channel anymore? I thought they took her off of there.
Okay, that would be news to me because I love Stacy. Like those Disney must-dos. I love. That's like how you feel like you've arrived at Disney. Speaking of must-dos, Kylo's first must-do. We're not even in it yet. Kylo's first must-do. Watching Disney must-dos.
I flipped through some of the Disney channels when we were down there, and I don't remember seeing Stacy.
That
But we were like, I don't know. We watched some of them. Like, you have to go do this at Disney Springs type stuff, and it was like a 10-minute loop. Gosh, I don't know. I'll have to look that up and find out.
I know that they have new commercials on like their new commercials on the bookend of the Disney must-dos. And so maybe that's kind of what you were seeing, but I would revolt if they took Stacy away. I mean, it's one of those things where like it's kind of getting old now because they still use footage of when she first did it, and I think that was like back in like 2010 or something like that. But anyways.
Another side note, my kids, I don't know, I got to train them better or something, because we would try to I would try to turn on the like planning station that had like, here are the hours today, the weather, that type of stuff, and where they have like great background music going on. I try to turn that on. My kids would grab the remote and start changing the channel to like Disney Channel. It's like, no, this is what we do.
This is what we do. Yeah, I love that channel too.
So, kids, if you're listening, I'm coming for you. You gotta change what you do there.
One of these times, he's gonna bring Uncle Kylo, and he'll come in and lay down the law. We're watching Stacy.
There you go. Darn kids.
Anyways, we are going to go. So we're going to be talking about must-dos, and these are going to be must-do rides. We're going to talk about kind of two different categories. We're going to talk about the ride that you have to hit right away when you get to the park, and then the ride that you can't leave the park without hitting. So,
Sounds good to me. Where are we starting?
I was kind of thinking about starting at Magic Kingdom. Just because it's just, I don't know, I just love starting there.
Yeah, I mean, it's their flagship park, and it's the park that everyone has to go to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's do it. When I go, my first ride is typically not Mine Train, so I'm looking at Space or Splash.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
probably going to Splash for myself.
Yeah, that's pretty popular. I have to say, this last time that I went, I tried to do Mine Train right away, mainly because, I mean, I have an explanation for that. Mine Train is great. It's a really cool ride, but it's like it's not really one of my favorites. But I almost wouldn't call it a must do. Like if I was unless I hit it right away or I found it when the line wasn't like super crazy long, like I probably wouldn't go on it, honestly, because like I'm not waiting an hour. It's kind of a short ride too, but a lot of the
Hmm.
tech that they're using in there is really cool. That's kind of what saves it. Um, but yeah, it's, I mean, not a huge must do for me, but it is, if I want to ride it, which like most of the time I do. Um, that's the ride that I would try to hit right away. Now understand, everyone else is doing that, so you have to get there early. And I made the mistake of underestimating Disney transportation on my first day, so I had no chance in getting into that line early. So I was able to just do whatever I wanted to for like 30 minutes, with everybody in the park in line for Mine Train. So that's usually what I'll do is I'll either try to get on Mine Train, or I mean, if I can't, then I mean one of the big ones, like Splash or Space Mountain.
Hmm. Yeah, we this last trip, I asked the kids what they were thinking, and not a one of them really cared if we went on Mine Train.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's just still the newness of it that everyone's still running for that ride, or what it could be, but um, it always astounds me that how long the wait can be for that ride.
Mm-hmm.
But we this last trip we took a right turn and went for Space Mountain. And here's a tip: keep an eye on the app and wait times, because Space Mountain was down that morning, so it was a bad idea to turn right. Um, and actually, that day, Splash and Space were both down in the morning, so that really screwed everything up for getting around the park. Like the rest of the day, like wait times are just screwed up all day because of it. So um, hopefully that doesn't happen to you when you go, but yeah, it really messed things up for me. Uh, but we hit some other stuff that I've talked about in the past, and we can move on. Sorry. I was about to go on a tangent and decided that I probably shouldn't. So,
Yeah, so I would have to say, at Magic Kingdom, the ride that I have to ride every single time, and this is not going to be a shock to anyone, if you've listened to any episode of this podcast, but I'm going with Haunted Mansion. Um, and it's just, I mean, it's my must do. It's my favorite ride at that park. Um, and it is kind of like it's like one of those nostalgic rides, kind of along the same lines of like Space and Splash. But honestly, I kind of learned my lesson this time, where because that was the first ride I went on, um, and it looked different. Like going on it with the sun in my eyes and everything, and my eyes not adjusting. Um, and I mean, to be honest, it's just a lot cooler to go on that ride when it's dark out, because it's a it's a haunted mansion. Um, so typically we'll try to hit that ride and then kind of run out to Main Street and do our shopping and everything. So that's usually the last ride we want to go on. Um, Plus it's kind of like right there. Um, you can like hit that ride and then run through the castle, through Fantasyland, through the castle, and then go down Main Street, and it's just a good way to end.
yeah, Haunted Mansion is great, and we got on it twice this time around, which was really good because we missed it the last time, and we absolutely love that ride. And it's not one. Obviously, I said we missed it the last time, but I think it is one that we really want to get on every time. For me personally, it's got to be Big Thunder Mountain. I have to get on that ride. Um, and that is probably the most fun roller coaster they have, in my biased opinion, because it's my favorite. So, but yeah, I have to get on there, and don't worry, I removed my hat and glasses. So, but for my family, oddly enough, it's kind of an unspoken thing, and now it might be a little more spoken, but we have to ride Small World. It just, for some reason, has become that ride that we can't go home until we've been on it. So and I try to look at it with the historical context that is there. Um, but it's just become one of those weird things for my family where we need to go on that ride. Now, my son, he finds something else to do because he can't handle being in that song for that long. But the rest of us do enjoy it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I love that park.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So it's kind of funny. Big Thunder, I would consider that a must ride for me. It's not my number one must ride, but it's definitely something that I'll want to ride whenever I'm at that park. Small World, however, is not, and I I don't know. I'm in the boat where like I've done it before. Like I've been in there. I've enjoyed it. It's a great ride. And it's got some great history to it. But I just don't need to anymore. um I could I mean maybe in a couple more years, like I haven't been on it in a while. And maybe if I'm walking by and it's like a 5-minute wait, which it barely ever is, uh maybe then I'd be like, you know what, Small World, let's do it. Um, but it's definitely not on my list of must ride.
Maybe it should be. Just saying. No, and that's why I just say, that's kind of a weird thing for my family is that we've come to a point where it's just something we have to do.
Mhm.
It's not Disney unless we go. So
And that's awesome for you guys. And that's what everybody has. Like everybody has that ride. Um, my sister and I, she's been on the show a couple times. We have matching T-shirts, and I actually feel terrible that I didn't get one for my brother when we were there, because it was like an Etsy T-shirt that my sister actually found, and I was just like, we're getting these. And so I bought one for me and her because we both love Haunted Mansion, and they said Ghost Host on the back, and it's a T-shirt, and it kind of looks like a spirit jersey, which is so cool. Um, but yeah, that's kind of become like our like the Nerherniak pack thing. Me and my brother and my sister, we love that ride. My current Facebook picture is me, my brother, and my sister in that ride, just because it's always such a cool picture.
very cool. Yeah, I'm glad you guys have that bond with Haunted Mansion, and I think that a lot of people probably have bonds like that somehow with a ride out there. So
Mhm. Anyways, let's move on to Epcot. Now I think this one we might have some differing opinions. Um, I know for me, Epcot, it's in my heart of hearts, it's my favorite park. But it's definitely my favorite park for a bunch of different reasons. A lot of them being nostalgia and my love of like tech and learning. So, um, I know what my must rides are, Brian. What's your very first must ride? What's the thing that you're running to once the gate opens?
I'm going for Soren, hands
Mm.
down Soren. My thing at Epcot for rope drop is you hit Soren and then walk right on to Living with the Land because it's right there, and I love going through that greenhouse for some reason. So, and Soren is just it's so cool. And my trick is if you get to a point and you are able to wait for the next ride instead of getting on the one that you might be able to, tell them, hey, I'd like to wait and get in the top row in section B
Hmm.
and see if they'll let you. I know right now with COVID they're not allowing a lot of that type of request stuff, but you're going to get on Soarin' without the bend in the Eiffel Tower. You won't see the curve. Basically, you won't see the curve of the screen, right? And I was blown away when we got to do that because I didn't realize how much that curve can affect your experience. So if you can get that opportunity, give it a shot because I thought it was pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. So I completely wholeheartedly agree. And the Soarin' to Living with the Land, that that's perfect. Like that's exactly what I would do. However, I have reasons for my very first must do. And it's hard with this park because there isn't, I mean, other than Frozen, there isn't a humongous headliner at this park just yet. Once Guardians opens up, it's going to be that. But the reason I pick this ride is because it's different now, and I don't like how different it is, but I still enjoy riding this ride, and that's Test Track. I used to be the biggest Test Track fan. It was so cool. It was such a cool ride. And not that like I really dislike it now. I just don't think it's as good as it was. And so it's before I could, and that queue was so cool. They've completely changed the queue. So I didn't feel bad like waiting an hour for that really cool ride. Like I've definitely done that before. But what the new iteration is, I would not wait. I don't even think if I would wait like 15 minutes for it. I would definitely do the single rider line. Like I'll do that. But I'm running to Test Track first because I would not wait in line for that. And again, this is kind of like the Small World thing where like if it's a walk on, sure, yeah, let's do it. Because it's a Disney ride. Like I'd rather be on a Disney ride than not being on a Disney ride, even if it's Small World or something else like that. So yeah, it's just I just wouldn't wait for it normally. I'll wait for Soarin', even though that queue also kind of sucks. But I've done it before, and I love that ride, so I totally would wait for it. But that's kind of my reasoning behind where I'm running right away when I get to Epcot.
I'm kind of with you though. The Test Track is not a favorite, and it really isn't with us. My kids wanted to do it this last time, and so we got on it at the end of the night. But I'd rather talk about that queue. Remember that old queue
That
at
queue was
Test
so
Track?
cool.
Oh my gosh, they were like building cars as you went through the queue.
Mm-hmm.
I remember parts moving along, like actually moving through the queue. I don't know if that was a thing, but that's what I remember.
Oh yeah. And they would also kind of show you how they would like test some of the stuff. So it was like they had like hammers hitting stuff and like stuff like that. It was so cool. And it was all cars, and I'm really into cars. And I thought and I have somewhere in my YouTube library that soundtrack for that queue because it was cool. Like the whole thing was so cool. And now it is not.
I thought it really hit the story really well, and I guess you're not really a crash test dummy anymore, whereas that's what the story was then. You were kind of more the crash test dummy.
Yeah.
Going through the ride. Yeah, it feels so sterile now to me. And I don't need to make my own car. Maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I don't think I never have. So I maybe that's the part of the ride that makes it worth it, but I never have.
Yeah, it's still fun going outside and going 64.9 miles per hour,
Yeah,
allegedly. And
allegedly.
but yeah, Soren is I will always probably go that direction.
Mm-hmm.
When there are fast passes, I'll try to fast pass one, and then you get to run for the other.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see how they set things up once Remy's is open in October, and once, as you said, Guardians opens, because that's gonna start opening things up.
Oh yeah.
And Test Track and Soar and those rides, I bet those weights will go down quite a
Mhm.
bit. Yeah, and you've got Frozen in there too. So if you've got kids, that's probably where you're running,
Mhm.
is for Frozen. But what's your must do there?
So I actually have a couple must dos, um, and it's hard because Epcot is so cool, and it's got so many awesome experiences. Uh, but my must do is living with the land. It's, I mean, I thought it was a hard decision, but I mean, it's totally living with the land. Like it's not Epcot unless I go on living with the land and see all the fish and all the plants and listen to doo 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 doo. It's just like so. It's also like still super 90s, like the way all that stuff was. And I just love that like old school techno like synth sound. Uh,
Oh yeah.
I just love it. It's just, it's kind of it's one of those things. It's like it's a hidden gem that and it's yeah. I just love it. It's so good.
I feel the same way. It's like I gotta ride that ride. It's
Hmm.
it's I don't know what it is, but I love going through that greenhouse. And we've taken up looking for hidden Mickeys as we go through. And obviously, there's the one in, like, what is it, lettuce plants or whatever, where they have a great big Mickey, usually shaped into the lettuce plants. So we're always looking for things like that when we're on living with the land. But also, I've always pretended like I have a green thumb, so it's kind of fun to see how other people are growing plants
Hmm.
and vegetables and different things. So
So my kind of runner up to this, because it's kind of within that same vein, is definitely Spaceship Earth. I love Spaceship Earth also. Uh, it is kind of it's kind of funny how Spaceship Earth is kind of run into this trap, which I do feel like living with the land has, but like it's like people don't really. It's not as big of a ride, so people have kind of like let it just kind of sit for a while. But every single time they change up Spaceship Earth, it kind of starts to feel dated again. And maybe that's just like Disney always said that the parks aren't going to be finished. Um, and so I think that's kind of what's happening now is because they're about to replace things again. And so maybe it's just me that I've gotten used because I've lived through like 3 different iterations and I've lived through like I think 5 different um uh
narrated.
narrators. Um and so I mean I'm used to change on that. And so I haven't really like I'm pretty attached to it. It's a great ride. But I guess it's that I know that like it's gonna constantly be changing. Um but the idea on that ride is so cool and that you go up into the golf ball because it's Spaceship Earth. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I take it or leave it. I don't have much of an attachment to it, I guess. My wife strongly dislikes it, so that helps. That I
Really?
don't have to ride it. She'll ride it if I say let's go ride it. There's a lot of hidden Mickeys on there, so that keeps her
Hmm.
busy. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I think the outdated thing is kind of catching up to me as well.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if the rewrite and the redo is gonna come anymore, at least in the near future. That's
Mm,
kind of been tabled for now, I
yeah.
think. But I was excited for that. I wanted to see the new, because it looked
Hmm.
like they were gonna really change it up. So I was excited to see that, and I hope that that eventually comes to fruition at some point. Um, with the new lands that they're putting in the Future World area, I think that changing up Spaceship Earth would help a lot. It kind
Hmm.
of flow with the rest of the park. So So yeah, that's not a must do for us.
The one thing that I hope they keep in there is thanking the Phoenicians, because I definitely want to get a shirt that says I'm just here to thank the Phoenicians. I love that shirt.
Yeah, so I guess that does it for Epcot. Where should we go next? Right down the same timeline and hit up Hollywood Studios, I guess, right?
Yeah, so Hollywood Studios. I think that's a good place to go next. We can just go down the timeline. Hollywood Studios, for me, this one is kind of difficult because you've got a must-do ride, but that's not going to be the ride that you have to run to right away. If you know, I'm giving y'all hints right now. So it's a little tricky with this one. So the ride that I'm running to right away when the park opens is the Tower of Terror. And it's kind of funny with this one. It's my favorite ride at the park. Still, even with that other cool ride that we'll talk about in a little bit. But it's also like kind of getting more popular. I don't know if you've noticed this. But
Yeah, I feel like Tower of Terror at one point was kind of just there.
yeah.
And now it's like all of a sudden people are riding it again and loving it. So I don't know what they did, if it just came back into the lexicon and everyone was like, "Oh, hey, there's a tower."
Yeah, and it's so before it was like the big sexy ride was Rock and Roller Coaster. And like everybody would all go to Rock and Roller Coaster. There was always a huge line. I felt like pretty much the entire time I was there, Rock and Roller Coaster was kind of hovering around like 35-minute wait, 45-minute wait. I think it got to an hour at one point, like during peak times. But like that was the ride that like it's like flipped because before that was Tower of Terror, and I was happy with that because it was my favorite ride and it was so easy to just kind of like get in line and it was like not that long of a wait. Um, but yeah, it's kind of weird how those two have flipped. Rock and Roller Coaster definitely up there in the rides that I want to ride right away, and it's easy because they're like right next to each other. And that's usually what we do. But yeah, it's just weird, Tower Terror and how popular it is now. I mean, I'm gonna equate it to it being spooky, and people liking spooky things a little bit more now with like murder documentaries and stuff like that. So I'll equate it to that.
It's this park is difficult right now because we haven't really had a fully operating park
It's not
prior
fully
to pandemic.
operational.
um because like Mickey and Minnie's only opened a couple weeks before the world changed, and so it's hard to know what this park will be like with all the fast passes, with normal capacity,
Mm-hmm.
with all the shows. So right now I'm agreeing with you. It's time to go to Tower of Terror. It's time to hit um, Rock and Roller Coaster right away in the morning, because everybody else, they're tearing out and running for either Millennium Falcon or Slinky Dog, and possibly Mickey and Minnie's.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we did that. We took the right turn, went down Sunset Boulevard, and sure enough, we walked right onto Rock and Roller Coaster. And that's kind of the tip right now. That's how you got to do that park, is hit that. And then, your day is just kind of waiting in lines. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, it's a mega park, really. I feel like it's got a lot of heavy hitters right now.
And it also doesn't have a lot of dining. Um, I think the park that has the least amount of like big name dining is Magic Kingdom, but it definitely makes up for it with a lot of other things to do. Hollywood Studios, on the other hand, like the only signature dining is um the Brown Derby. And then I mean other than
Yeah.
that, it's like you've got a couple other places, but that's about it. So dining, not awesome. So it's not pulling people the way like Epcot dining pulls people, or Animal Kingdom dining pulls people. And then it's very heavy on shows out at Hollywood Studios, and so those aren't happening. So you don't have those shows, and so it's really just rides. And I mean they're doing a great job out there with rides and like supplying new lands and stuff like that. So that's great. And I completely agree with you. I want to see what this park is going to be like once people start getting pulled all of the places. And then another thing I kind of want to talk about is uh, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, because I've now waited an hour plus in that line twice. The ride itself is amazing. Like that, I would wait in line for an hour. I would wait in the Soarin' line for an hour plus to get onto that ride. But that queue is so cool. Like that queue, like, and I've said this before where when I was younger, I wouldn't get fast passes to Space Mountain because I thought that queue was so cool. This queue for Millennium Falcon is so cool. Like the room that you go into and like just like the detail and everywhere. Like it's literally part of the ride, like walking through that whole area. And I've done it now twice. Like I probably waited a good like hour and a half both times I've ridden that ride and haven't felt bad about it at all. Because walking through that queue is so cool, and then that ride itself is so awesome. So that's another one where it's like I don't have to sprint out to that one because like I'm fine waiting in line. The one thing I did not enjoy, however, is what they're doing right now is they are pushing you outside of the actual park and putting you into the back theming the back the unthemed area behind everything.
Backstage.
Yeah. That's what I was looking for. Backstage. So that, I mean, that was less magical. But I mean, at the same time, like you just weave through that and then like you're right in there. So I just thought it was so cool. So
Yeah, I really enjoyed going on Millennium Falcon. There's a room where they're trying to power up an engine, like a
yes.
ship, and I was cracking up. The commentary coming from the guy was awesome. I don't want to give too much away, but when you get in there, start listening to the conversation that's going on. It's hilarious. And then, the ride itself, definitely do it with some friends. Don't just join a group if you can. Because my son and I were bantering at each other the entire time. We're still bantering about it here and there about how terrible of a pilot he is. And he'll tell you how terrible of a pilot I am. But my wife just sat back. She was an engineer, so she says, yeah, I was just sitting back there trying to fix everything you guys are breaking. So I mean, yeah, it's a great ride. And I know a lot of people, there are some people that are kind of like, it's just another Soarin' or it's another simulator, but it's so much better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much fun. And I think there's definitely re-rideability built into it. So I think we definitely need to cover the big elephant that you've kind of alluded to already. Rise of the Resistance. Now, we've talked about the first thing you're going to do is run over to Tower of Terror. But I would say the first thing you're going to do is get up at 6:30 in the morning and get your boarding group so you can get on Rise of the Resistance.
Yes. Yep.
We've covered in the past how to get that boarding group. It has some tips and tricks that can be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, remember that it's still only a lottery. And at the current capacity right now, roughly 60% of people are getting on it. So there's a chance that you will not get on it. We were lucky enough to get on it, and I'll tell you that it was incredible. It's quite the experience they've built. And I know, Mikhailo, you got on it, and that was like a make or break for your trip. And I knew about the numbers game, and I knew it was still a lottery, and so I tried not to make it a make or break. But I'll tell you what, I would have been bummed big time if I would not have been on there. Yeah, it's so much better than watching a video of it. You don't get the same energy.
Oh yeah, and honestly, kind of part of the excitement of that ride is waking up at 6:30 and figuring out how to get this boarding pass. That was I cried several times when I was at Disney. That was one of them. Just like getting that on my phone and like seeing that I was boarding group 8, and I was like, oh my god, like I was just like losing my mind. But yeah, that and 150% must ride. Obviously, if you're going to Disney a lot, there's a possibility that there is a day that you won't be able to ride this ride. Hell, if I go back, there's a possibility. If I go back anytime soon, there's a possibility I won't be able to ride it. But
yeah,
it's just so amazing of a ride that if you step foot in that park, it's like you better be riding that ride because it's so cool.
It really is. And yeah, I've got a friend that's been there quite a bit, and she's mentioned that she never gets the 7 a.m. She always gets the 1 o'clock. So I thought that was interesting.
Is that she never tries for the 7 a.m., but she always gets the 1 o'clock, or she never makes it into the 7 and then does the 1 o'clock?
She may not even try for the 7 because they don't like to get to the park until like 11:30.
Yeah.
So that could be it. But she's always gotten on with the 1 o'clock, which it'll be interesting to see if that changes for people, because they've now just this week announced that the 1 o'clock you'll be able to get that boarding group from anywhere on property now. But you have had to have already swiped into the park to qualify.
So it would have to be so still you would have to have had that park as your first park.
Yes.
So you can't park hop. So you can park hop from that park to another park. However, that Hollywood Studios has to still be your first park. So you could go to Hollywood Studios and do something and then park hop to another park.
Park hopping doesn't start until 2.
Yeah. Yep.
But you could leave and go to your room for a break, or you could leave and go somewhere else for lunch. Get your boarding group while you're off property or out of the park, and then come back for your boarding group. But yeah, you have to swipe into the park in the morning, and then you can still get into that 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I wonder if that's if that's more for Florida residents, people who have annual passes, who are starting to go again. And I do annual passes, my little quotes. But yeah, I wonder if that's for a Florida resident thing, so that they don't have to, they can get that from anywhere and then go and do it. So
yeah, I don't know what the change was, what the thought was there, but I know a lot of people that like to take a break in the afternoon and go back to their room and take a nap. or if you just go back to your room for lunch. I mean, they've got the Skyliner right there now, so you can
Mhm.
easily get back to a bunch of different resorts, even if you wanted to go grab a bite to eat there instead of in the park.
Mhm.
Um, so there's different reasons why, I would think, but just another thing to know or to note that it's possible that maybe that pool of people trying at 1 o'clock is going to increase. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so we've hit Hollywood Studios. All we have left is Animal Kingdom, and I for one think that Animal Kingdom is, at least for me, it's pretty cut and dry. Like there's really no thinking for me when it comes to the rides that I want to go on. The first ride that I need to go on, and then the ride that I can't leave the park without going on. All of the other parks, I kind of had to think about it a little bit more. This park is pretty easy. So the ride that I think you guys all should go on right away when the park opens is Flight of Passage. And that, I mean, honestly, that's just kind of like a wait time thing. And that's kind of been, for the most part, what we've been telling you is the ride with the longest waits. Typically, that's what you want to hit first. But it all depends. But at this park, definitely, it's especially when the park first opens, it's pretty easy for this line to get all the way back to Africa. It's pretty nuts, and I've waited in that line before. So that's a big one. I had probably the ride of my life the last time I went on, because I just was able to walk straight onto the ride, and I was like one of the first groups in. So that was amazing. But I mean, it's an amazing ride, and it's super crazy popular. Um, so yeah, that's I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer for me for this ride.
I would agree. The last few times we've been in that park, that's where we've gone first, and you definitely have to get in that line. It grows fast, very fast. So if you're going to Animal Kingdom and Flight of Passage is a must do, and you're not interested in, I mean, you have to get there right away in the morning. You have to,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to do Flight of Passage, because if you get in there and you get that done right away in the morning, your whole day is free. I mean, that park is so easy to do then.
Mm-hmm.
You're not spending 2 hours waiting in line. You can go and do everything else and take your time and relax. That park is so relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Joe Rohde built that thing as a park of discovery, and it really is. So if you can get Flight of Passage done in the morning, you have time to go and discover. Um, and I'll tell you, when I think about Animal Kingdom, I'm thinking about Flight of Passage and I'm thinking about Expedition Everest. And I have been able to rope drop both of those on the same day. And I mean, that's crazy to think about. Like, we went and we did Pandora, and then we went and we rope dropped because they hadn't opened Asia yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we went and dropped that by the time we got done with Flight of Passage. Um, so this park in particular, you need to be there early. It saves you so much time.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And I was kind of thinking while you were talking, probably our best morning was being able to do Animal Kingdom and just like do all these rides in a row and feel like we weren't rushed, and we had all of this time to just like chill in that park. We had so much time, we decided to buy park hoppers and go to Epcot, which is what we wanted to do. But being able to kind of like knock all of those things off of our list, we were able to hit Flight of Passage and then Navi River Journey like right away, like two of the most popular rides. And now transitioning to my must ride at Animal Kingdom, you already mentioned it, Expedition Everest. It's just, I don't know, it's not even like really nostalgia because it hasn't been around for that long. Maybe it kind of has, but Like, I don't know, it's just such a great ride. The theming is amazing. It has kind of a place in my heart with my family because I think that ride in particular is a ride that I know every member in my family loves because with me, my brother, my sister, my mom, and my dad, we've all gone on that ride together multiple times. So it's a family favorite, not just the Disney clan, which is me, my brother, and my sister. It's kind of a family thing, and so it's great to have that. Um, I don't know, but and it's just for a long time, that was the ride at Animal Kingdom. When I was growing up, like it was that, and then like the safari.
Yeah, that really was. I mean, that's about all they had, and dinosaur was pretty big at that point too.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's kind of fallen off a little bit now. But Flight of Passage has really changed the park where that's where you need to be. So um, I would agree though. Expedition Everest for me is my must do.
Mhm.
Um, I have to ride it while I'm there. I When you go back, first of all, going backwards, and then after the change, so you're going forwards again, and you're doing all those loops, um, or circles. I don't, you don't go upside down, but all the circles that you're doing, and you just get forced down into your seat. Like that just is such a big thrill to me. I love that part of the ride. So I
Mhm.
have to every time. Yes.
For sure. Um, yeah. Do we have any honorable mentions with any of these parks? I know we kind of mentioned a couple. I think for Animal Kingdom, an honorable mention for me would be Dinosaur, and that would be a must ride. Mainly because I don't know that uh, rode that ride a long time ago and kind of fell in love with it. And so that's kind of a nostalgia thing for me. So I feel like I kind of have to hit that ride whenever I go to Animal Kingdom.
The safari is one of those that you have to ride to.
Hmm.
I think that's something that has to be mentioned for Animal Kingdom.
Yeah. Um, Epcot. I mean, honorable mention for me would be Frozen. And really the reason I say that is because it used to be Maelstrom, and you still kind of get that Maelstrom vibe from it. Uh, but I mean, look at who's in my family. we we enjoy Frozen, and it's an amazing movie, and it's an amazing ride. Um, but when that thing was Maelstrom, that was a must ride, like 1,000,000%. So,
Yeah, I loved Maelstrom. I really like what they've done with it for
mhm.
Frozen. I think it's a well done retelling of the story. Um, and I went into it without any expectations the first time I wrote it, and I was pleasantly surprised. And
Mhm.
I will write it anytime anyone says let's go on for Frozen. I have no problem with that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So
Definitely, yeah, I totally
yeah.
agree.
Hollywood Studios, I can't believe we talked about it without me really mentioning Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Like, I mean, I guess it's because it's going up against Star Wars
Oh
that I
yeah.
didn't really get to mention it. But yeah, that ride to me is incredible, and it's got to be ridden.
Would you so we're going to talk about this now. Would you say um would you think it would be a good idea to run to that ride first? Cuz I know when I went um I I think when I went I waited in a pretty substantial line to get into that ride. And I didn't think I was going to have to. And waiting in that line, that was kind of when it first clicked to me where I was like, it's the weekend. The parks are busy now. So, would you say that now, kind of like knowing all of this, knowing how popular it gets there, would you say that's something that you would run to right away?
No, I think it depends on when you get into the park and
Mhm.
what is important to you. I think, as I said before, everyone's running for Star Wars and Slinky Dog. If you're not ahead of those crowds, if you're not, near the beginning of this, um, I would say the best choice is still to go to Rock and Roller Coaster or Tower of Terror
Mhm.
because nobody's going there yet. I would definitely do that. Mickey and Minnie's drops during the day. The line when we got into it, I think it said 35, 40 minutes. It was shorter than that of a wait. And that was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't think you need to rope drop it. Now, if you're running in and you're seeing everybody take off and no one's in line with Mickey and Minnie's yet, definitely jump in that line. It'll save you some time, and then you'll still have time to run down Sunset
Mhm.
and hit those two rides. Because that's just how the park is right now. Is that it's going to be that first hour. Not a lot of people are going to be down by Tower of Terror, so
Mhm.
that's the best place to start if you're not the first one into the park.
Yeah. So, Magic Kingdom, I would say an honorable mention for me would be Pirates of the Caribbean. And that's kind of because when I was younger, I mean, it's full nostalgia. You get all the feels on this ride of like old time Disney and Walt Disney and everything like that. But it was also kind of it was a family favorite for a long time when we were going to the parks. It was one of the back in the day. It was the first ride we would run to before we were planning anything. We would just decide to go down to Disney, and then we would run to Pirates of the Caribbean. So that's my honorable mention for Magic Kingdom.
Mine would be Jungle Cruise.
Yeah.
We love the Jungle Cruise. It's always a good one. Yeah. Not much to be said there. I know they're making some changes to it, and I'm interested. I love that they're bringing in Alberta Falls.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the story that they're creating is going to be really interesting and should really add to what that ride already is.
Yeah. No more Trader Sam.
No more Trader Sam.
Yeah.
But and they recently took the pole that the 4 people are running up with the rhino.
Mm-hmm.
That pole is missing right now with the 4 people.
Oh.
Because it'll be coming back, but there's actually they've named those people and they have backstories now.
Aren't they changing one of them to a female character? I thought I saw that.
Well, yeah, you've got Alberta Falls, and then those are like her colleagues.
Oh, okay, yep.
Or something. I don't remember it exactly. I have to go back and read that again.
Maybe that's what I saw.
Yeah. But yeah, so she's running the expedition company and taking over the company from, I think, from her father. I can't remember the story. I've read it only once, so I'm gonna have to go back and look at it. But yeah, it like when they say, "Here's Schweitzer Falls, named after Albert Falls."
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one of my favorite jokes they tell, and I don't know if I don't know. I just like that one. So to hear them expanding on that, and also knowing how it fits in with the SEA, I think the changes are going to be great. But
yeah,
a lot of talk for an honorable mention.
Yeah, well, I think we went through all of the parks. Kind of give everybody a pretty decent must-do list. Definitely not Stacy's must-dos, but this is Brian and Kyla's must-dos. So that's all we got for you guys today. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please rate us on iTunes and subscribe. Email us at milesfrommainstreetpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, and visit us on Facebook under Miles from Main Street. We'll be bringing more to you weekly and look forward to talking to you then.
Until next week, remember,
Some live close,
but most of us don't.
So let's talk about it.